My job in the war was as a stenographer, shorthand typist, and so a little pink slip came my way one day, and I was 18, so I had to do something. Might have been munitions, it could have been land army, it could have been anything. This opportunity came up to go to the War Cabinet offices, as it was then, in Great George Street for an interview. And he was always very affable. You'd meet him in the corridor, "Good morning, Mr. Churchill," or "Good morning, Prime Minister," or whatever. And he'd say, "Good morning," and might say, "How are you?" But usually it was just "Good morning." I mean, for one thing, you could always tell he was there because although a lot of people smoked, he smoked cigars. And that's a very potent smell, and the minute he came through the door, wherever you were, you knew he was there. And of course, he was under tremendous strain, so you can imagine that it wasn't always easy at all, and tremendous weight on his shoulders and terrible decisions to make, and some decisions which I'm sure he regretted making in the end. I think he was the man for the hour, there's no doubt about that. Upstairs in the other departments, it had been mostly things like letters to various, well, particularly to Russia. I think I worked at the Russian department for a bit, when after they had, they'd taken over Finland. They then came in on our side, or they think we came in on their side. And so we supplied them with a great many, all sorts of things. I mean, numbers of ships were lost on that dreadful North Sea. They're often known as the lost cause because they've never been acknowledged. Goodness knows why. Everybody else got medals for different parts of the service, but you don't last long in the North Sea in winter, if at all. Churchill called it the worst trip in the world. Then we went downstairs, I say, we were seconded downstairs, and that was immediate. We were typing action plans. We were having reports every day from all over the world, daily reports of where all the bombs had fallen, whether they were buzz bombs or whatever sort of bombs they were, V2s. But also, of course, we were preparing for D-Day to begin with. We typed all the necessary papers, and there were very, very few of us, and certainly I typed the war plans for the invasion plans for Eisenhower and his group. We knew where all the troops were, we knew where the Americans were based, we knew where the Free French were, where the Poles were. So we had masses and masses of actually immediate information. I don't know that it seemed particularly exciting at the time, it's just part of the job. When war was finally over, they held the Big Three conference in Potsdam, and only 6 of us went from my particular department. We went into Berlin one day, a group of us, and we went into the Reichstag, as it was then called, and the Chancellery, and we eventually came across Hitler's desk, which had been smashed. There'd been a bomb had come straight through the roof. So we eagerly picked up bits of his desk, which always surprises people because in actual fact it was marble, and it had a pale blue kind of tile panel in it somewhere, I don't know, because it was smashed. We were housed in Babelsberg, which is the kind of Hollywood of that part of the world. And I remember looking around the house one day and wondering how long those people had to leave, because there was knitting on a chair, there were children's toys on the floor, and books on a coffee table. And then I found a book which was a German photograph album, Wehrmacht, German Army, Wehrmacht. I thought that would be super for a diary, because obviously during the war I couldn't keep diaries, not in my sort of work anyway, it wouldn't have been wise. People often ask whether you're afraid in air raids and things. I don't remember being terrified ever. Well, I had 3 near misses with buzz bombs, but on the other hand, I've sat in St James's Park eating my sandwiches with buzz bombs going overhead. As long as you could hear them, that was fine. So when they cut out, you had to count and be ready. Sometimes I think it's best not to recall. I mean, I can understand now why people don't recall things. You've got to live in the problem, but you've got to live. You can't go on being haunted forever.